And welcome everyone. This is Krista with Keeping It Real. I'm your host, and I'm also the publisher of NewSpiritJournal.com. My guest today is Reverend Judith Laxer from Gaia's Temple in Seattle. Hello, Judith. How are you today?
I'm good, Krista. So nice to see you again.
Same here. Now, we're going to talk about the winter solstice, which is happening December 21st.
It's the 21st this year, yeah.
Yay, all right, I got it right. Sometimes I say the 20th when it should be the 21st.
Well, it does change from year to year. So.
Right. So I'm forgiven.
Yes.
So tell us all about the solstice and how we can celebrate it.
Okay, sure. So the winter solstice is one of the major Sabbats or holy days on the pagan wheel of the year, and it holds the balance for the summer solstice across the wheel. And the winter solstice is it's the longest night of the solar year. Excuse me, longest night of the solar year. And so at the summer solstice, it's the longest day, and at the winter solstice, it's the longest night. And so it does hold the balance of polarities on the wheel, which I think is part of nature's magnificent design as we travel through time and through the seasons. And it's, for a lot of people, this is a difficult time of year because we are essentially sun worshipers. And so these short days and very, very long nights are challenging for a lot of people.
Right.
I happen to love the dark time of the year, so I'm in my glory right now, and most people the sun is gone by 4:30, and I'm like, yay! But I'm not your normal usual, that's for sure.
Right.
But, to the ancients, the word solstice itself means sun stop. That's kind of from the Latin sun stop, essentially the meaning of it. And it was called the solstice because on that longest night, it seemed as if the sun would never return and daylight would never happen, So it seemed as if the sun itself had stopped in the sky. And, of course, it didn't. Now we know. The Earth continues to, orbit around the sun. It's the angle of the Earth, of course, that causes all of our seasons closer to and leaning away from the sun, north or south hemisphere, depending on where you're at. So the southern hemisphere right now is about to experience the summer solstice. But we are about to experience the winter solstice. So that challenge of, being in the dark is a big one for a lot of people. But that's why the first thing that I bring up about this is that it's holding the polarity for its opposite on the wheel, because we know no matter how difficult, just like in life, no matter how difficult our challenges are, they don't last, or at least they have a trajectory, we can be at our worst, but time moves on and things shift. And so even though this is a very dark time of the year, before we know it, it'll be the spring equinox and we'll be, reveling in the light half of the year.
Right.
As far as how to celebrate the winter solstice or what to really pay attention to, yes, the first thing that I would say is that following earth-based spirituality, we seek to emulate nature as much as possible so that we're in alignment with our environment. And we're not, unnatural or anti-natural or going against nature.
Right.
So here we are about to enter the busiest social time of the year, right? All parties and all the shopping and cooking and, there's just so much busyness and activity. But if we look outside, nature is pretty still right now. The frost is happening. I mean, the squirrels are going crazy, but nature is dormant.
Right.
So it's true, like in that poem, we should be lying down for a long winter's nap. This is the time to actually to be more restful and less busy and going to bed early and sleeping in as much as we can. And so just without ritualizing it necessarily, it's a great idea in this season to try to be as, I don't want to say idle, but less busy.
Restful,
and sometimes
maybe?
That means say no.
Say no. But maybe take a more restful attitude instead of go.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And, sometimes that means, often that means cutting back
Right.
on things that are, that we felt we need to, really examining what the societal pressures are to be at every party, to show up, to have a gift for everyone,
Right.
I know that's easier for me to do as I get older. I think that there's something about being a little bit more mature and making some choices
I
where
agree.
you're partying a little bit more when you get older. It's easier to do.
It is.
I have found that I do enjoy the winter holidays way more because I'm not saying yes to every single thing.
Right.
And I don't feel obliged to gift everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But also understanding where a lot of these holiday traditions come from can really help shift your attitude about approaching them.
Right.
And the majority of the Christmas holidays that we are experiencing, that we go through, even the way I said it, we go through, we got to go through Christmas. They all have very deep pagan roots.
Right, right.
It is said that the great cosmic mother gives birth to the sun on the solstice. And so it's a very big leap to see that the mother giving birth to the sun, who is the light of the world, is something that happened when Christianity came along after.
Right.
And so I think historically they say that the birth of Jesus was really in the spring or sometime in the summer months.
That's what I've heard too. Yeah.
But they just kind of moved it here.
Right.
Let's make it in December because of Saturnalia, which is what the pagans were already celebrating.
Right.
And so a way to co-opt that religion really was to say, oh, no, this is really what you're celebrating. And then slowly over time, it got shifted. And then so many of those traditions really have their roots in paganism, from Christmas tree coming into the home. I mean, originally the pagans would bring an evergreen tree into the home to represent life lasting through the darkest time, the hardest time of winter. They would hang amulets on it to ward off sickness and hunger, and those became ornaments. And then little by little, the branches would be cut off and they would be fed to the fire to keep them warm. And there we have our Yule log,
Right. I know, it's fascinating. It's fascinating.
It is fascinating, isn't it?
When you see the history. Yep.
Yeah. Even the wreath hanging on the door, which I remember saying this to somebody who just stared at me like, what? But the wreath represents kind of the sacred opening to life of the great mother goddess,
Right.
So the word of the year. She said, I will never look at a wreath the same way.
Maybe that's a good thing.
It was really funny. Oh, I'm sorry. There goes my telephone, and the truth is, I don't know how to turn that ringer off.
We'll ignore it. They'll hang up.
Life just happens.
It does.
It's the ongoing of life.
It does.
So anyway, knowing some of what the holiday traditions really are, or what their origins are, also helps you to kind of drop the urgency around them and not feel so driven to comply with what society is telling us that we have to do, all the way down to gift giving. And I want to talk about that for a moment, because the pressure to spend money and get the right gift, it's really gotten insane, and it's become more now an expression of our societal consumerism than it is what originally meant, which was that communities would come together and gift each other with the necessities needed to make it through the hardest time of winter. So if my family, grew wheat and turned that into flour, and your family were the vintners and turned it into wine, the grapes into wine, and this one kept sheep and they had the wool, and the other ones knew how to preserve, and so they were busy canning, and then comes a hard time of winter, and we would gift each other with these things so the whole community would survive through the dark time of the year. What a beautiful thing that is, right?
Right.
As opposed to how much money do I have to spend, and how can I spread this out among everyone I know.
Right.
So I think shifting that also really, really helps, just to approach these sacred holy days of the longest night from a more loving and present place.
And maybe the community, I love the idea of the community. I don't know what that screeching was, if you heard it, but yeah, it's something happening with Skype, but that's okay. I like the idea of the community coming together so that it's it's more about helping each other and supporting one another than about, trying to keep up with somebody else. And yeah, it's just so nice. It's so much nicer. Yeah.
It is. It is. And we can see the remnants of that with all the holiday parties.
Yes.
But the truth of it is, during the light half of the year, we were engaged with our gardens and work and preserving food. Now is the time to sit around the fire and tell stories and hot cider, and be with each other, because we're not busy working in the field so much anymore. But in our industrial age, we've come so far away from that.
Yeah.
Right. And so now what happens is we feel we have to keep up with everybody, and it just can really ruin everything.
Right.
So I just like to kind of talk about those origins. Oh, and then there's one more tradition also that I think is pretty fascinating, which is the hanging of mistletoe and kissing under the mistletoe. So mistletoe is an herb that is sacred to the Druids. And medicinally, mistletoe is a cardiac. It stimulates the heart.
Interesting.
Exactly. I do not recommend ingesting mistletoe without the help of your herbalist and your naturopath, because it's, it's not just something you want to eat or drink as a tea necessarily. Right. You know what you're doing. But anyway, it's just fascinating to me that, these just ancient ways have made their way down through time.
Right.
And here we are celebrating them. So anyway, to get back to the solstice, what my community does is we create a ritual or a celebration in which we spend some time literally in the dark. We take the lights out and we sit in the dark, because in our culture, as we know and as we're seeing in everything that's being now, we view dark as bad, as light as good, and that plays out in 1,000,001 different ways. But really, it's not good or bad, it just is. And if nature is bringing us into this dark time, then why don't we just be in that darkness for a while?
It's a great idea.
Take the stigma out of it, take the fear out of it, and also if you're sitting in community in the darkness, in a sacred space, easier to be with the darkness and to befriend it a little bit, So we do that, and then we have usually somebody in our community plays the great cosmic mother and plays the great Sun King who is being born, and through ritual gestures we enact this being born using sort of a hoop that he comes through, this sacred hoop, and then his candle is lit, and then everyone lights their candle off of his.
Nice.
Metaphor for each of us rekindling our own inner light during the longest time, the longest night and that dark time of year. And it's so beautiful. And then when all of us put our candles together on the altar in the center, it's like standing around the sun.
Right. How beautiful.
It is. It's really beautiful. It's a lovely ritual. And then, of course, good rituals all have an intention to them.
Right.
So this is where you can really get creative. So, of course, lighting a candle in the darkness is a beautiful thing to do, and who doesn't love the glow of candlelight? But if you think of it about, what is in shadow in me that needs to come to the light, what has been, what energy has waned in me that I want to spark and rekindle and charge up for the next part of my life or the coming seasons or the new year, because it lands toward the end of the year, then lighting that candle can be something that you do very intentionally. That this isn't just lighting a candle, I'm igniting my intention.
Right.
So the meditation usually that we do during the winter solstice ritual is to really come to understand what is it that we want to rekindle in the future, so that when you light your candle off of that Sun King's light, it has meaning.
So is this a good time for people to think about forgiveness and of self and others? It's kind of like letting go of some of those things. Is this a good time of the year for that?
I think so. I mean, I think it's always
always is, yes.
but it is a particularly good time for that because we are in the darkness, and that's when we take a look at what's going on in shadow.
Right.
And so we can look at shadow stuff as all of the things that are wounded, all of the mishaps, the conflicts, and to heal them, release them, let them go so they're not still sitting in your heart. Sometimes I heard somebody say something once, if we, could charge rent for all the grudges we hold in our hearts, we would be wealthy.
Yeah.
So it's very much a good time to do that.
Yeah, we give people free rent in our heads because we just keep thinking over all the he or she done me wrong and all of those things. That it doesn't serve us at all, but you have to get to a place where you realize that it really doesn't serve you. And, you're not, forgiveness doesn't mean you're letting them off the hook. You're just letting them out of your heart and your mind and let them go deal with their own karma.
Right. I'm kind of a wordy nerd, and so I'm always looking up how did that word get formed and what does it mean? And one of the of forgiveness, the FOR in forgiveness is the same for in forward. And so essentially when we forgive, we are giving grace into the future about salvation. I just love that.
Nice. Yes.
That doesn't mean that it didn't hurt, and you're not trying to do revisionist history it didn't happen.
Right.
Just not holding it into the future. You're giving it some grace to be different as you move forward.
Right.
Beautiful thing.
It is beautiful, and more of us need to do that.
That would be really good. And also, like you said about doing that now at this time of year, it's the end of the year, and the solar cycle is cyclical, of course. It goes round and round, so circles don't have beginnings and they don't have endings, but we do have a collective agreement that 2017 is coming to a close, and we're going to call it a different number in January.
That's right.
So it's a very reflective time, and it's good to go over all that took place during the year and, see what you did well, see what you didn't do well, see what you accomplished, see what you still want to do. See what you're ready to let go of, declutter the mind, declutter the heart and the soul so you can have a fresh start.
Exactly.
I think that reflectiveness is so much easier to do when you're not busy. And that's what the show is supposed to be, quiet and reflective.
Exactly. And I wanted to just add something here. I didn't think about saying this originally, but now that you bring it up, I follow the Tarot. As you know, I'm a Tarot practitioner. And 2017 in the system I use was a 10-year, which is the Wheel of Fortune, which means lots of changes. The wheels change, lots of things happening, which we saw, right? Yes, 2017 is going to move into an 11, or the Wheel of Justice, which is all about karma and balance. So what I've been telling clients who are kind of really upset about everything that's going on is fear not. The wheel has turned and changed and churned up this year, but next year the chickens are coming home to roost.
Yes.
For everybody. So that's us too. Right.
Right.
So we need to also, that's the other thing that's good about forgiving and letting go, is you can move beyond that karmic repercussion that you might have planted those seeds.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just yesterday I had my service in Gaia's temple, and one of the things that I was talking about was that if all of our actions, every action that we take, if we seek not only to have it be loving, of course, but to be just, then the peace that we create can last.
Right.
We can get to moments of peace or periods of peacefulness, but unless it's just, it doesn't last.
Right.
So that's interesting that justice is coming up in 2018.
Yes,
I think
it
that's
is.
Very interesting.
I do too. It'll be fun to watch how it happens for everybody, for on the big screen and big scene, and in our personal lives both. Yeah.
Macro and micro. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, just simply lighting candles. I mean, we're all decorating and putting our lights up, and that's a way for us to do some sympathetic magic to keep the dark at bay.
Right.
But there's one other, sort of bit of magic that I'd like to suggest for the solstice. Not everyone can do it, because holding vigil all night long is really hard to do, to stay up all night long. But I do know a couple of people who do that every year, and they start a fire at sunset, and they keep feeding the fire all night long. Wow. And sometimes they take turns, so somebody will get a little nap and the other one will stay up. But they stay up all night until the sun comes up, in a way holding vigil for the light to return, which is a beautiful thing. Now, I can make it to about 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I can't stay up anymore. But I do have like a 7-day candle or a candle in glass, and I'll light that and I'll leave it on all night so that the light, somehow will be holding vigil for the light, even if I crawl under the covers. So which night would a person do that? They would do it on the night of the 20th, moving 21st.
The night of the 21st, moving into the 22nd.
Yes, because that's the longest night.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
So then the 22nd, the light returns. We don't really start to see the light the longer days until like the end of January or in both beginning of February. But every day, minute by minute by minute, it is growing longer. It's imperceptible at first.
Right.
But the next couple of weeks we'll start to see it. So.
I know, and it's so nice when that happens.
Yes.
So what do you have going on at Gaia's Temple to celebrate this season?
We have a beautiful solstice ritual that is open to the public, and it's actually going to be on Friday night, the 22nd, so it'll be the night after the solstice, but close enough,
Right.
And that is going to be in North Seattle, and if people want to email me or go to the Gaia's Temple website, and on the event page, there's some information about it.
Perfect.
But it's going to be at 7 o'clock, and it's open to the public, and we have a beautiful, like I said, beautiful ceremony where everyone gets to light their candle off the newborn Sun King, which is just so lovely.
Nice.
And, we're also gearing it towards specific going on in our culture and the darkness in our culture, and how can each of us bring light to what's happening there. So not only, personal, but it's also community, which is just lovely. And then we have a wonderful potluck after that, and then we've got great pagan carols.
Nice, fun.
Sitting around the fire, and that's a lovely gathering. So people are welcome, and hopefully will join us for that. It's a great ritual for Seattle. Yeah.
And then I wanted to mention, because I know we're getting close to the end of our time, but I wanted to mention that you also offer individual sessions, and you work with people on an individual basis besides your work as the priestess at Gaia's Temple.
I do. I have a ministry, and I have that ministry, and I also have a private practice, and my office is right by Green Lake in Seattle, and I work as a spiritual counselor and a psychic. I also read tarot. I do shamanic practice and hypnotherapy. So, pretty much on the woo-woo choo-choo, as they say, if you have any sort of spiritual need. I love that expression.
And they can reach you for that at judithlaxer.com, right? And I'll put that on the screen. It's on the screen as people are looking at this.
Yes, that's my website, and then Gaia's Temple is gaiastemple.org. And you can reach me through both places.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for everything. Now, we're going to end with something a little special. You have a poem that you want to read, and you're going to read it, and then after you read it, we're done. So we're going to say our goodbyes to everybody now. And thank you. And
so much, Krista. Thank you so much. I so enjoy doing this with you.
Oh, I love having you. It's great fun. So let's hear the poem.
I'll read this poem. It's called The Shortest Day by Susan. So the shortest day came, and the year died, and everywhere down the centuries of the snow-white world came people singing, dancing, to drive the dark away. They lighted candles in the winter trees. They hung their homes with evergreen. They burned beseeching fires all night long to keep the year alive. And when the New Year's sunshine blazed awake, they shouted, reveling. Through all the frosty ages, you can hear them echoing behind us. Listen. All the long echoes sing the same delight. This shortest day, as promise wakens in the sleeping land, they carol, fest, give thanks, and dearly love their friends, and hope for peace. And so do we, here, now, this year, and every year. Welcome, Yule.